IBI Scientific. And today I'm here with Dr. Rob Philabert of Behavioral Diagnostics, Inc. Rob, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, actually, I'm an Iowa farm kid. Grew up, born and raised in Iowa. I attended St. Ambrose College and then completed an MD and a Ph.D. at the University of Iowa. After finishing a psychiatry residency at the University of Iowa, I spent 6 years in Washington, D.C., in the headquarters of the Human Genome Center, fulfilling a pharmacology research associate training program and a staff fellowship at the National Institutes of Health. Subsequently, we returned to Iowa to start to further my career in research in genetics and epigenetics.
What is the smoke signature assay?
The smoke signature assay is an epigenetic assay that is capable of detecting the presence and quantifying the degree of cigarette smoking.
How does it work?
The basis of the assay is that it quantifies polyaromatic hydrocarbon in cells in the saliva or the blood of patients and subjects.
In what way is it better than the current accepted methods for detecting cigarette smoking in individuals?
Current technologies are easy to fool and are neither sensitive nor specific for smoking. The most commonly given test for smoking is exhaled carbon monoxide. The problem with carbon monoxide testing is, first of all, in order to fool the test, all you have to do is not smoke for 2 or 3 hours, and your carbon monoxide goes back down to baseline levels. But more importantly there are a lot of false positives. People with lung disease show elevated carbon monoxide. People that work in certain environments suffer from false positives. Now, the alternative and the preferred test by most clinicians is the serum, urine, or salivary cotinine test. Now, the cotinine test is probably more sensitive to the presence of smoking, but once again, it has a lot of false positives. For instance, if you're around someone that smokes, you can come up and appear cotinine positive. But more importantly all cotinine measures is nicotine metabolism. But nicotine can come from other things other than tobacco. For instance, from vaping or from the use of the nicotine patch. And so in order to develop a laboratory or a clinical test that is sensitive for smoking, what we have to do is be sure that we have a test that can differentiate from those who are in treatment and those who are failing treatment. And because 90% of patients that use pharmacological treatment for smoking cessation use the nicotine patch or nicotine gum, we physicians can't use a cotinine test to determine whether they're succeeding or failing at smoking cessation therapy. What is more, is there only yes or no tests. In other words, they can only tell if you're smoking or you're not smoking. But patients don't come in just 2 flavors. Patients are generally making good efforts or they're making poor efforts. And quitting smoking is one of the hardest things that patients have to do clinically. And most commonly, although we love to see patients quit cold turkey, the vast majority of them don't. And in fact, the vast majority of them simply taper down off cigarettes. For these patients, the cotinine test and the carbon monoxide tests are useless. In contrast, our test, because we can quantify the exact number of cigarettes that patients are smoking, we can transform a yes or no into this is improving. And more importantly in a clinical conversation, there are a lot of difficult subjects that are broached. And there are no more difficult subjects in medicine than those of addiction. it's hard for patients to tell us that sometimes they're not doing as well as they would like. And as physicians, sometimes it's hard for us to hear that our patients aren't able to tolerate the prescriptions and the treatments that we've prescribed. Smoke signature takes that difficulty out of the conversation because it objectively quantifies cigarette consumption and allows patients to talk about the rest of the issues that are affecting their health and well-being and the pursuit of their goal of healthier living.
Who benefits from the smoke signature assay?
Well, the short answer to that's easy, everyone. Because I think the shared goal of researchers, clinicians, and patients is to stop smoking. And smoke signature was developed under funding from the National Institutes of Health to exactly forward the purpose of smoking cessation. But researchers are going to be the first to benefit. In order to stop smoking, researchers need to be able to accurately measure smoking. And the use of vaping, e-cigarettes has completely upended their ability to use cotinine tests to measure smoking. The smoke signature tests completely addresses that problem, and in addition allows those same scientists to exactly measure and monitor cigarette consumption using saliva. There's no necessity of drawing blood. There's no necessity of having an awkward conversation, of having patients give me a urine specimen. Just have the patients spit into our tube and voila.
What type of sample is used to obtain the DNA needed for the assay, and how is that collected?
The DNA that can be used with smoke signature comes in two forms. The first is blood. Blood is the medical standard. However, for research purposes and eventually telemedicine purposes, blood really isn't an option. So in partnership with IBI Scientific, we have developed a handy-dandy saliva kit that researchers and eventually clinicians will be able to use to obtain saliva samples for smoke signature testing.
So are there distinct advantages of using saliva versus other types of samples such as blood?
Well, I always tell people, I'm a doctor who's very brave when I have the needle. However, I don't like getting poked. And one of the advantages, I think one of the difficulties in getting patients to come to see physicians is the pit in their stomachs that represents the fear they may get poked. The saliva-based test completely obviates that fear and allow patients to walk forward confidently in their physician's office. One of the biggest advantages of using saliva is the absence of the need for a phlebotomist. The drawing blood is discomforting to many patients and costs money. And in fact, getting a phlebotomist to come to your house to draw blood can cost $100 or $200 and potentially exposes you to infectious diseases such as COVID. However, by simply obtaining a saliva kit in the mail, spitting in the tube, sealing it, and returning it to a testing lab, you can completely miss any opportunity to be exposed to COVID, influenza, or any other forms of infectious disease.
Where can smoke signature assay and the saliva collection kit be purchased?
The one thing about me, Pat, is you'll find out that I'm a passionate physician and a fairly decent scientist. But Dr. Philabert doesn't do manufacturing. We have partnered with IBI Scientific, a trusted supplier of laboratory supplies to thousands of laboratories across the United States to supply both the smoke signature kits and saliva kits to those interested in the assay. It takes us out of the conversation and allows other investigators to use the test independently. One of the good hallmarks of science is that it should work without the scientists. Science is a technique, it is not a personality. So when we developed this test in partnership with the National Institutes of Health, we agreed that we would make this test available to researchers across the world without any stipulations. And so we're very glad that IBI Scientific has agreed to be our supplier of the smoke signature assay to other investigators.
Well, thank you very much today for your time, Dr. Philabert. We certainly enjoyed the information that you shared with us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Pat. It's my pleasure, and I'll be happy to work with any and all so that the scourge of smoking is eradicated from the face of the United States.